So it's really great to have you here. I'm really excited about this topic, and I'm interested to see what we make of it together, because for me this is the most important topic of all. How do we fulfill our potential in life? And today we're going to do an overview and look at the two key components, the two key dimensions of life. And then during the next sessions, we're going to go down into a bit more detail in each of the different areas. So the second session will be, what is my gift to the world? What is your gift to the world? The third session will be, how do I include my vulnerability and difficulty? And the fourth will be, how do I make it happen? And this is really the most interesting thing. And I want to learn from you as well, because I've got my own way of thinking about this, but I don't often talk explicitly about this particular topic. So I'm just going to show you some images that I put together, and then we'll come back and discuss the two models afterwards. So great. So the first component, there are two components about the journey of life, about life. The first is life as a journey, and the second is life like music or as music. And so this is such a strong meta in our culture, we don't even realize it's a metaphor. The meta of the path, the journey, going somewhere, a destination, achieving our potential in life, having a vision of the future and getting to that vision, building and accessing our resources on the way to that vision. It's such a strong metaphor that people may believe that that's the only way to think about life, that it's the journey to success and to fulfillment and to happiness. It takes it one step further when you talk about how would you know that you've had a good life? What would that look like, sound like, and feel like? A lot of people don't ask that question. They think about short to medium term goals. So for me, it's really an important and interesting thing to ask myself, how will I know I've had a good life? As I'm preparing to die, will I say I've done what I came to do, or will I say that I've got more regrets than I wish that I had? Of course, we'll all have regrets in life. That's just a part of being human. But have we really given our gift and loved as much as we wanted to and explored the nature of being human to the extent that we can? Of course, life has difficulty, life has suffering, life has trouble, and a part of the journey of fulfilling one's potential in life, the journey, life as a journey, the journey of the path of mastery, is to learn how to face difficulty, how to heal your psychological wounds, how to hold yourself in love, in your vulnerability, and in your difficulty. And we learn as we go through life. My attitude is that if I can learn to deal with the small failures, the small sufferings, the small difficulties in life, then I'll be able to handle the big ones better. And of course, there are some benefits to, if you heal your emotional wounds, if you heal the difficulties of the past, if you learn to face the suffering of life well, you get wisdom. Wisdom is the gift that you get from healing, suffering, and facing the human condition. And of course, Viktor Frankl, who wrote about the Nazi concentration camps, said that the third form of meaning in life is meaning through how you face unavoidable suffering. I would say that it's how you face the human condition, both the agony and the ecstasy of life, the difficulty and the beauty of life. The poet David Whyte talks about the three marriages: the marriage of love, the marriage with your work, and of course the marriage with yourself. So I would equate that to Viktor Frankl's. Viktor Frankl has the marriage with work and the marriage of love, but he calls the third marriage how you face unavoidable suffering, whereas I would call it the marriage with yourself, or the marriage with the agony and the ecstasy of life. And so on this journey, we're learning, we're growing, we're changing, We're developing mastery. And I think one of the things to explore in life is how you learn, how to really be good at learning from life. The British Special Forces have this saying, which they use in their training camp, which is who trains wins. That I believe that we can all benefit from developing ourselves throughout the whole of our lives. There's never a point when we can't grow more. I've never met anybody who couldn't grow more in life. And so that's sort of a real summary of, the path of mastery, life as a journey, life as somewhere to go, becoming, the journey of becoming. Of course, there's achieving, there's concrete goals, but there's also becoming more of who you truly are. Finding that potential in yourself and growing yourself into an oak tree. And in that journey of exploration, we start to look at ourselves, we start to think about, who am I? What is this thing called existence? What is life about? What is this thing called life? What is existence? We start to ask these questions. And that will lead us more directly to the second form of big dimension in life. But first I want to talk about life as a journey. So, you have a purpose, you have a calling, or life calls you to something. Life calls you to give a gift to the world. And you can develop a vision of that special gift that you have. If you take your strengths and your personal history and your psychological resources, which is your psychological resources are all, every moment in your personal history that you were in the flow, that you felt successful, that you felt at one with yourself and at one with life, every relationship that was good, every relationship where people saw you and believed in you. Those are your psychological resources. So the combination of all of that makes you unique. And so you have a unique gift to the world that is the sum total of everything about you. Actually, it's also the sum total of all of the good stuff and also all of the pain that you've had to heal and all the difficulty that you've had to heal in your life. And I'll talk more about that in the third session, but life also has suffering, and it's really important to recognize the woundedness that we bring from our childhood. Almost everybody does, to some degree, or any point in our life, particularly in the West. Actually, particularly in modern cultures. I wouldn't even say in the West, because of course it would be the same in the East as well, in more modern cultures, where we've got really bad at child rearing and bringing up kids in community with a whole village doing the parenting rather than just two parents. And most people, probably outside the indigenous tribes in the rainforests of the Amazon or Africa, are pretty damaged by the process of child rearing. And all of us have wounds that we need to heal around that. But of course you may have wounds from your teenage years. There's the first 7 years of life, there's the second 7, there's the third 7, right the way through into your 20s. And something traumatic may have happened in your, further in life. So learning how to heal your wounds, to accept your vulnerability, but not to have your vulnerability so incapacitating that you can't fulfill your potential, you can't do what you need to do in life. And if you heal your wounds, those wounds become gifts. That's the real offering that is available in the process of fulfilling one's potential in life. So if we heal our wounds, both we'll see the gift that was in what happened around the wounding, but also we'll see the gift that came from the healing process. I think I've talked to some of you about this before. I know someone who, she's a beautiful woman, she's got a beautiful husband, she's got beautiful kids, they live in a nice house, they have a dog, they live next to woods, they walk the dog in the woods, they play golf. Nothing much, as far as I can tell, nothing much difficult has happened in her life. And yet she's not a deep person, she's not deep, she's not particularly wise. I mean, she's not particularly unwise either. But there's a depth that comes through the healing process that you can just about only get through facing into those questions. And just to mention that, of course, in life there, you could talk about, I've talked about the 3 forms of meaning: the marriage of love, the marriage with your work, giving your gift to the world, and the marriage with yourself, which is the fundamental one. It underpins all the others. How you are with yourself, how well you welcome yourself, how both the good stuff in yourself and the difficulty in yourself, how loving you are to yourself, how good a parent you are to your own, child self, your own, all the different ages that are within you, all your different emotional states. That is really a critical part of fulfilling one's potential in life. And but as you journey through life, perhaps you'll have an inkling of the idea that the goal is not to reach the utmost limits, but to find the place that has no boundaries. So the great mountaineer Reinhold Messner, he climbed Everest, what's called alpine style, two men and a rope, 6 days up and 6 days, I'm not sure actually, 4 days up and 4 days down, carrying all their own supplies, no camps or anything like that. Then he did it without oxygen, and finally he did it solo, completely on his own, carrying all his own equipment. And he uses this quote from Tagore, from the Indian philosopher. So, the purpose isn't to get to the top of the mountain. The purpose is some inner journey, some inner dimension. That it's not even about getting to the top, is it? It's about what you go through in relationship to yourself. It's about the journey, not the destination. And so that sort of brings us right into the second area of life that I actually consider to be almost more important than life as a journey. And I've called it life as music, although it's not quite broad enough, but it describes it well. So when you listen to a piece of music, you're not trying to get to the end of the track, are you? The destination of the end of the track is not where you're trying to get to. In fact, you may get to the end of the track and play it again a second time. It's about the journey. It's about the chord. It's about the voice. It's about the soulfulness. It's about the lusciousness. It's about the richness of the experience in the moment. You're not trying to get to the end. You're trying to fully immerse yourself in and experience and enjoy the beauty of that present moment. And if you're really fully attentive to the present moment, it becomes the eternal moment. It becomes something that's beyond time in the present moment. And so, music's a great metaphor for that. And it's, when we look inside ourselves, and particularly I think is, you want to climb mountains, you want to be successful, you want to achieve things when you're, particularly when you're young, the world is ahead of you. But as life goes on a bit, you realize that, success and failure very often happen just by accident, by things that are outside of your control. Good stuff comes, good stuff goes. The good news in life is that the bad stuff will change, and the bad news in life is that the good stuff will disappear. Everything changes. So as we look at consciousness, we look at life, we look at how, we get attached to achievement because our parents told us we had to achieve certain things. We get attached to relationships, even though we know, you marry someone, one of you will probably die first. One of you will abandon the other. That is the truth of life. Even if you manage to, to be married for 60 years, everything disappears. You will disappear, they will disappear. That is a part of the process of life. And so that in the present moment is where the beauty and the majesty and the magnificence of life is. That sort of sense of being so vulnerable and just present in the present. And, there's this beautiful saying I read the other day, which was that, when you get off the train, that's the destination. It's sort of the journey of life. We need to stop very regularly and get off and be present. And with the lusciousness, the beauty, the magnificence, the wonder of being alive, of consciousness of this present moment. And of course, there are lots of places that we have these experiences. And one of them, of course, is in nature, and another, of course, is playing with children. Moments which are just beyond time, where just looking into a child's eyes or a baby's eyes, or just holding the hand of an old person who's close to death. All of those really precious moments are, and of course, most of those moments are not expensive, by the way. You don't have to do a moonshot or go around the earth on a 22 million pound flight to experience a moment on the beach with a child. And of course, the own ecstasy of just being alive, being in one sensation, being in experience, being in the beauty of this all, having awareness that can experience all of this. And of course, the human contact as well is, of course, it's such a beautiful thing. The science fiction writer Kurt Vonnegut said, "We are here to get through this, whatever this is." Or, we're here to help each other get through this, whatever this is. So the beauty of connecting with people, whether it's, your intimate partner, your intimate friendships, the people you have deep relationships with, or the street cleaner, or the woman at the checkout counter, or, the man who I saw this morning in the gym who showed me around the gym, the local gym. All of those moments of richness. And so this is what the Zen masters, this is what the mystics, this is what, the Sufis will say, that the real truth of life is in this present moment, rather than all the scheming that takes us from past to future, all the planning, going somewhere. And I would say that, that is true, this is true, and also discovering our uniqueness and how that is a gift to the world, how our uniqueness and our passion is a gift to the world, and expressing ourselves really clearly out into the world is also a really important, if you like, a rising from the present moment. Out of the present moment come all of these beautiful acts of creation and beauty. And of course, making a beautiful work of art, is really worthwhile. We don't just need to stay in the present moment doodling. Learning to be a great painter, learning to be a great artist is a beautiful thing that is a part of being human. It's just that if we get addicted to achievement, then we make ourselves unhappy. If we get addicted, if we believe that success and failure is anything more than a game, then we get unhappy and we get into trouble. And so just every day finding a way to feel the rain, or just feel alive, or look out of the window and notice the sunset. Be still in the nature of life, and just reveling in the magnificence, and being grateful and having gratitude for the magnificence. And to make this more and more of our practice, so that some people will start on a meditation cushion, or or singing in the church choir, or going to yoga, or walking in the park. But then you say, well, it is really beautiful when I walk in the park, but there's also a flower in my neighbour's hedge. And then I can actually notice my neighbour's hedge and say, wow, those leaves are doing well. All the little moments of life, the drinking the cup of tea. But it can be great to start by developing the big moments, by being curious and inviting those big opportunities to feel alive, whether it's walking in the woods, going to the beach, walking the dog, playing with the child, listening to music, cooking, running, whatever it is that you do. And then you can extend that sense of awe and gratitude and presence to things that are smaller, the single flower that grows out of a brick wall, or even, the immense creativity that has built these concrete jungles that I live in. Even though the concrete jungle can be quite disconnecting from the nature of life and the biosphere, yet it is this incredible creation. We may in the future look at concrete jungles and wonder why we did it, but nevertheless they're incredible creations. This is, of course, though, extending ourselves into nature, really being able to sense the beauty of the natural world. The natural world is systemic. Human thought and intellect is linear, and actually we're much more, life is poetic, it's systemic. If you look at a tree, it's not a linear code that's created that tree. It's not a logical code, it's a pattern. And life is patterns, not logic. And logic is just one little bit that's been added in the neocortex, a recent addition to the human brain, but has got out of control and dominates us, when actually coming back to our systemic nature, which is our, the nature that thinks in metaphor, that is body orientated, that feels connected to nature, that is intuitive. That's how most of nature is. But humans have developed this very, very powerful tool that we've become addicted to. We've let it take over. And so coming back to just the present moment and the intuitiveness, the synchronicity of the present moment is just so important. And of course, just, there has never been a moment that you've been separate from Mother Earth. Every breath you take, you're Mother Earth. If you didn't breathe, and she didn't give you oxygen, you wouldn't be alive. If you didn't eat, if you didn't drink water, you are never, ever, ever separate. So why we even talking about coming back to nature is actually sort of incorrect. We are nature. We are, that is a much more important identity than our own individual self or our family unit. We are a part of this whole that's connected, and we've lost our sense of that. And then also in the sort of from the being space, we can sort of begin to sense, just wonder about our place in the universe and just wonder about existence. I often find that science itself takes me into a deeply spiritually connected state, just to think about the Big Bang. And one of the theories which around in physics is that it was a big bounce, that there was a contracting universe that contracted back to a singularity and then bounced back out again. Otherwise, what was before the Big Bang? So if it was a big bounce, then it bounces all the way back. How far back do all those big bounces go, expanding and contracting universes? But really, there's an invitation which, through being really present and through prayer and through nature in particular, that there's deep secrets of being that can get revealed to us if we just pay attention to being. And actually, I want to say more about that, but I think I'm going to say it without slides. So that's sort of an overview of those two key dimensions of life, of fulfilling one's potential in life. And it's so important to remember that all the stuff around achievement is, it's a game, it's a dance. Very, very few people will be remembered much beyond their own lifetime. Remember, it's a play. But perhaps we can be role models to others of how to have a good life. Perhaps in our journey of learning how to have a good life, how to live well, we can have a positive impact on others. And so that sort of combination of knowing what your gift is to the world, the difference that you can make in the world, and also being quite humble and just coming back to the present moment and leaning into connection with people, connection with yourself first, connection with other people. There's a whole world that comes that way. If you talk to the great sort of masters, they sort of live out of the spontaneous arriving of the present moment. They don't have to plan in the way that we plan. They may do some planning as a tool, as a toolkit. So let's have both. Where most of us we're all modern people. We're on Zoom, so we're sort of modern people. So we can have some of both. And so that's for me the journey. And you won't know what your potential is, until it's really not even your potential. You don't know where you'll get to in your life until you've got there. There's no absolute limit, is there? but it's just exploring what is it to be, what is it to give my gift to the world? What is it to love? What is it to deepen my relationship with this being called me and consciousness? And what is consciousness? And, Buddhists say awareness itself is the Buddha. Christian mystics will say that we are source, we are God. God is in everything. And the Jewish mystics will say the same thing. And the Sufis and the Native Americans and the indigenous tribes. And the Hindus, the Vedas. So, wow. And here we are. Isn't this magnificent? Look, here we are looking at this strange box with all these pictures of people and feeling connected. And so that's, for me, that's the exciting thing. Is it's not make for me. It's not making. Money's useful, isn't it? It's great for stuff. But giving one's gift, making a difference, feeling valuable in one's personal life, through one's professional life, in connecting with people, through doing and through being. I was talking about this with people yesterday, and perhaps when we connect from a being level, from a somatic, from a body-mind connected, from a generative, from a connected place with people, and invite them to join us in that's the greatest thing that we can offer to another person. We'll do a meditation on this in a minute, but first, any comments or questions on what it is that I've been talking about before we do a meditation? And don't worry, you don't have to speak if you don't want to. You don't have to rescue me from the silence, because I can handle the silence really very well, so we can sit here silently. But actually there will be a question or a comment that bubbles up, so be patient. I remember on a workshop recently, somebody came and asked they just tried to fill the space because they were embarrassed about the silence. And actually, we'll take Om first and Marina second and Gyanrico third. So there's no need to fill the silence. Om first.
So apparently we have to go through suffering and pain in order to grow. So why this sort of, I'm just wondering, why is it necessary to have
I don't
only
know.
this way to grow,
Ask God. Or ask nature. Don't ask me. But I don't think it's not the only way to grow. But have you noticed, because remember in the early days of NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, they were all saying, hey, you don't have to grow through pain, you can grow through resources, you can grow through. But have you noticed in your own life, I have certainly grown as much through, some of my deep growth has happened through my pain. Maybe I'm just, so that's how it seems to be. I can't give you a reason for it. I think it's because the ego attaches our ego wished that things were a certain way in the past, and it wishes for a certain thing in the future. It wishes for what it hasn't got. And there can be a real pain in the losses of the past, and a real pain in not achieving the things we want in our life right now or the future. The ego is really very attached to outcome, to wanting things. And the ego is the reason why we're the dominant species is because the ego is really good at making stuff happen. It's very good at getting us food. It's very good at getting us shelter. It's very good at all the survival stuff. That's why but then it goes too far. It's always feeling upset about the thing that we haven't got. The relationship we haven't got, the perfect partner, or the money, or the status, or this or that. it's sort of obsessed with having things, when actually that isn't how life is. Life is things, things appear, things stay a while, things disappear. Everything is change. Nothing is constant. The only thing we can argue that is constant is consciousness. And even then, you know, if you think consciousness goes beyond death, that's a belief that you know that you carry. But the only thing in the interim between now and my death, the only thing that until now between now and my death, the only thing that's certain is that I will have awareness to some degree.
Thank you. Thank you.
Sure, Marina.
Yeah, sorry, it's triggered something else now as well. I'm just going to go blur for a couple of minutes. So that last thing you said, you know, this thing where you want it all to be pleasurable and lovely the rest of your
Yes.
life. That is that the ego then? Wanting that?
Yeah, it's. I mean, not the ego in a very negative sense. It's very human.
Yeah.
You know, it's that self that identifies with what's inside my skin.
So anyway, yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. We want it to be pleasurable.
Yeah, exactly. So that's the goal. So that's sorry, I was just picking up on that self-awareness that ideally going forward,
not the goal. That's the goal. That's the problematic goal.
Yeah, and then the other thing, I was listening to something the other day, and I've got a book about it, about waking up.
Go on.
So Julian's on the floor. Just so
I just my power supply unplugged. I don't want to drop offline.
That's all right. I know you can do two things at once. So the whole thing about the universe is we are the universe. The universe is us, but we're observing everything, if that makes sense. So someone was saying it's the other way round. So that was just something I wanted to put to you.
What's the other way around?
Well, that we are the universe, we are the galaxy, it's because we're observing it. It's almost we are that, aren't we? That it's in us.
Yes.
It's sort of, I can't explain it that way. And I know people are nodding because they've probably read similar books, but I think that's what you're saying as well, Julian, almost, that we're observing all this, aren't we? So it's almost like the universe and all these things, the source, as you put it, that is us anyway.
That's right. So, but the observer part of us is only one dimension. So that observer.
Yeah.
So when you practice they'll say that in meditation they'll say the path doesn't go all the way. So you first have to really observe consciousness and not be addicted to thinking, not get lost in thinking. Thinking's fine, but just not get lost in it. Thinking comes, thinking stays, thinking goes. There's an observer. But actually, that is still the part of the brain that makes a distinction between me and you, the observer and the observed. There's something beyond that. But that's a good starting point. But, you know, we are the universe. There is material, you know, it's a scientific fact, there is material in your body that was created in the combustion of stars, the explosion of stars. You know, so it really is true that you have stardust in your body. I mean, perhaps it's a metaphor, but you have star ash in your body. So we are the universe, and so I think one of the most useful metaphors in all of this is that so there's the ocean of existence, everything in existence, and I'm a little wave. The one called Julian is a little wave that has risen out of the ocean of existence for a short amount of time. A little bit of froth on the surface will fall away back into the ocean. If I'm identified with that wave, you know, I'm going to try and stop myself dying. You know, if it's scary. If you're a wave, then it's scary. If you're the ocean, it's much less scary. I'm not saying, you know, you'd have to be in a full enlightened being, you know, wearing white, sitting on a cloud, to just say I am the ocean. But could we have a little bit of that? Would it be helpful to have a little bit of that sense of that one's true identity is existence rather than this very fragile creature? You know, I could fall over and die any minute. But if my identity is broader, that's why indigenous people are so lucky, because they are living within nature. They feel the life of the biosphere of Mother Earth. They feel part. They feel part of that, rather than we built. It's sort of, we've become so separate. We so believe in our individuality. Yeah, I think I've said enough on that. Who was the third person who had their hand up? I've forgotten who it was. First it was Om, then it was Marina. Oh, Gianrico, you had your hand up, didn't you?
Yeah, question. You say, what do you mean with humble?
Being humble.
Being modest?
Yeah. So part of the, so the ego fights for its survival. So, you get food, you get housing, and you try and spread, increase your gene pool to increase the size of your pack, your tribe, that sort of very basic sort of stuff. But then the ego sort of has got into this really bad habit. So then we try and be, a really great psychologist, a really great trainer, a really great businessman, a really great, we get very sort of involved in promoting this individual ego, thinking that we're significant, thinking that we're important, wanting to be significant. But the saint, the realized master, the Sufi, the Jewish mystic, the indigenous shaman realizes that they're just a fleck of dust. They're not important at all. The wisdom that they have is because they don't think they're important. They just are in the, they don't even, they're not trying to create a self-image. They're just being an authentic expression of spontaneous arising. And in neuroscience, that's what the right brain is. The right brain is experiencing, and the left brain makes maps. And then we want to try and make a better map. But it's all that ego stuff about who am I, what's my map, how do I represent myself, all of that. That's just a representation. It's just a map. It's not the real thing. The real thing is the ever-changing present moment. Of course, it's, you create a good map, create a good brand. You can earn lots of money from it. It can be useful, or you can impact a lot of people. The Dalai Lama's got a good brand. He can impact a lot of people. But that isn't the real thing. The map, the brand, the image, the thing that you're promoting is not the real thing. The real thing is is the ever-changing experience of the moment. And that's why when the problem with sort of quite a lot of organized religion is they've created the structure, they've created the image, and they've forgotten about the real thing. What's happening moment by moment by moment by moment. And so much of life is like that. So the humility is just to keep remembering that I'm just a little wave on the ocean. I'm not really very significant, but I don't have to feel bad about myself. It's a freedom. It's a freedom to know that your life isn't significant. It's not like low self-esteem or being disempowered. It's more like my life is just, I've got good, my parents lived to 90. I could live 90 years. What's that in all of existence, in eternity? It's just a moment.
Yeah, but it's a difficult shift, no?
Yeah.
In all their lives to be able to say, okay, now am I play the game of the material life where my ego have to function in any way and in a social desirable way, and am I now in my spiritual life where I know that ego it was nothing, and our soul is the eternal thing that I bring to shine, maybe through my body and through my ego. You know what I mean?
I do. Can I comment on that? It's a really important comment, Gianrico. The ego wants to be a good spiritual practitioner, but the ego will have to not die is too strong a word, but some of the mystics would use that. But it has to really reduce its place has to be destroyed, has to be reduced to really be to do the spiritual thing. So the one who wants to be a good spiritual practitioner is going to have to dissolve for you for you to be really a good spiritual practitioner. How can I say that? And so the advice from the meditation masters is you don't try to be more spiritual. You don't try to change your life in a way that's more spiritual, because that's the ego trying. Where you can put a little bit of trying if you want to is to doing some sort of presence practice, whether it's dance, meditation, movement, walking in the forest, whatever the presence practice is. Using a little bit, we don't have much self-discipline, do we? It's not, we only have very, very small amount of self-discipline. But if you can apply a tiny drop of that to supporting yourself having the experience of being in the present moment, then that experience of being in the present moment will begin to affect your life, and that will start to become more and more important in your life, and the ego-driven stuff will become less important. But you can't use the ego to using the ego to reduce the ego may get you in trouble. I mean, here's an example. I mean, it's a trivial one. I sort of thought the past isn't important. So when I was 18, I was Buddhist at 18. The past isn't important. So I went and threw away all my childhood photograph albums. I was a good photographer. I threw away all these things, which I can't remember anymore. It wasn't necessary, was it? It was my ego having a concept about something. So the thing is, the way to have more of the being is through the practice and experience of it, not the intellectual. Let the intellect do what the intellect needs to do, and let the being part do what the being parts do. And you can apply a little bit of the ego to, okay, let me give myself some time to practice being. Let me spend time with the grandchildren. Let me time holding someone's hand and looking in their eyes. Let me go and visit my friend who's going to hospital, or go with my friend because the nurses have said that her mother is dying and you better go now. Let's take all those opportunities for being. And then our lives will change. But just having an agenda isn't going to do it. Thank you, Janrico. I want us to get into a meditation about this. Is there any burning question before we start the meditation on this? Okay. So the meditation, we will cover both aspects. Life as a journey, which is important. We're not to deny the importance of that. And also life as the eternal present moment, or life as music. And some of you may want to turn your cameras off while we meditate, but it's helpful for me if we have cameras. Lots of people have cameras on because it helps me attune to the group. Some people like to sit, some people like to stand and move. Moving is actually great because it engages the somatic self, which is deeper and more experiential than the cognitive self. So it's really, but either way, we'll connect with the somatic self, whether we're moving or sitting. And the purpose of meditation is to engage more of ourselves than our cognitive mind. That is the purpose of meditation, to be more whole than just the cognitive, ego-driven mind that has dominated Western and world culture since what they call the Enlightenment. And we've gone. It's great to have logic. It's great to have all of that, but we've gone too far, haven't we? It's become more. It's dominated in a way, and it's separated us from each other, from all the species, all the peoples of the earth. It's separated us from each other, and it's separated us from our mother, Mother Earth, and of course we have massive problems because we've abused Mother Earth. And so that, you call it generative state, creative mind state, body-mind connected state, is really important for us to practice. And of course takes us into being, or reminds us of being. And there are many different ways of going into this more connected state. And today I'm going to invite you to just think of a time when you really were, you felt one with yourself, or you felt one with life. And perhaps it's helpful to remember your location, to remember where you were, to hear what you heard, to feel what you felt. Perhaps there may be a smell associated with that location. And of course, for some people, just paying attention to this present moment is the best way in. Listening to the sounds outside the room, inside the room, in my body, in my mind. Paying attention to my physical experience. What is it I feel? On my skin, in my muscles, emotionally, right now. And let's remember what we're most passionate about in life. What makes our hearts sing. What you would love your gift to the world to be, or what your gift to the world is. From your heart. What your passion is. Yeah. And as you feel that passion, perhaps strengths that support you in that passion come to mind. with this passion, with these strengths. With all the things you've learnt in your life so far. With all of your mentors and guides around you. All of your supporters. Everyone who's ever seen you and said yes, heard you and said yes, believed in you, supported you, cared about you. With your passion and your strengths and your sense of your gift to the world, and all of these supporters, and perhaps archetypal forms, higher power, saints, connections to the divine, with all of this, have a vision, allow a vision to emerge of how you would be if you'd fulfilled your potential in life. If you'd fulfilled your potential in life, if in your healthy old age you have fulfilled your potential in life, what does that look like? What does that feel like? What does it sound like? Just really make sure that it's truly representative of what you'd like to have in your life, how you'd like to be. And make it a little bit more. Make it a little bit more full of rainbows. Make it a little bit more sexy. Make it a little bit more. Stick a little bit of Disney wand on it. Just a little. Really see your heart of the old you, the wise old you. See the radiance. See the way she talks to children, plays with children, or he plays with children. Relationship with community and the earth. When I look at me, it's the most important thing is the quality of my heart. And then relaxing a little, letting go of the vision of the future, coming to the present moment, or living that vision of the future in this present moment, being that person now. Notice how you are now. Just accept everything in your experience. The stuff that feels good in your body, anything that feels difficult. Any thoughts you have, be aware of them. Observe them closely. Don't push them away. But don't follow them. Thoughts come and thoughts go. Notice what you hear. Notice what you feel. Notice what you see in your mind's eye or with open eyes. Be really present. How is it being alive right now? Notice that attention jumps around, thinks about different things, pays attention to different things. It can be great to direct attention to something in the body, like breathing. Notice how attention scampers. That's fine. Welcome that. And can you also notice that there's something more subtle behind attention that sees everything, that hears everything, that feels everything at the same time, at once? So attention jumps around. And behind that is something like a mirror, consciousness. Lots of different things are reflected in consciousness, arise in consciousness. Consciousness doesn't change, it's just what arises in consciousness. The mirror doesn't change, just what is reflected in the mirror. So there's the narrow focus of attention and the broad, relaxed view of consciousness, feeling of consciousness. Can you pay attention to everything at the same time? act as if you could, since you don't know what everything is. You can't assess that, but you can just keep including more, include more. More of what you feel, more of what you see, more of what you hear. So this is experience arising moment by moment. This is experience arising from nothingness, from emptiness. A feeling will stay a while and disappear. This is the doorway to source. This is the doorway to, this is Tao, moment by moment, awareness. Leaning into this will reveal the secrets of existence. What is this? And this moment. Notice when a distraction happens and allow that. You go off in a thought, something happens, allow that. And then let the distraction go and come back again. It's all just stuff arising, appearances arising in consciousness. There's no good or bad about it. Just be curious. Just be welcoming. Just be interested. Interested in everything that comes. Welcome, 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 welcome. And that, and this. Include everything. So then allowing a little bit more of the thoughts of the journey. How might you explore being more in your life? How might you allow this more? Slowing down in the park, or with a child, or cooking, or with music, meditation, exercise, and a million more things, a million more ways. How might you allow yourself to have more of this nourishment? Holding hands with a friend or a baby. Taking time to look at the night sky. Say hello to a dog in the park. So when you're ready, orientate yourself back to the screen, and back to the group. Turning on your cameras. We're going to go into groups of 3 and talk about what we want in life as a journey, what our vision for our lives will be as a journey. What's our vision for our life in our healthy old age? And what it is we want to develop in just being, where there's nowhere to go, no journey. This is it. So in the 2 dimensions, life as a journey, fulfilling your potential in life. What do you want in that? And the other dimension, in terms of being, nowhere to go, just enjoying and savouring life as it is. So in the groups of 3, so one person will talk and the others will listen and say, tell me more. No advice giving, no selling your products or services, nothing at all, but listening to the person, asking them questions for 10 minutes. If you've got some advice or some thoughts right at the end, in the last 2 minutes of their 10 minutes, you can say, can I make a suggestion? But only right at the end. Don't offer any advice that you haven't had given permission to, and just listen with your heart. Everybody, make sure that everybody in the group of 3 is fully attentive on the person talking. Don't go off and make a cup of tea or do your email or check your phone or anything of that sort. Be really attentive. See, hear and feel the person who's talking about how they want, what they want in each of these 2 dimensions in life. I will do the timing in the groups of 3. So the first person gets to talk for 10 minutes, 10 minutes per person, groups of 3 starting now. You've been invited to a breakout room. How was that for you? Any questions and any comments from your personal experience? Don't particularly want comments about other people or what their experience was or your generalizations about the experience of human beings, but just really, if you have anything to share from your own experience, your own longing, or a question for me, do feel free to speak, but let's keep it short so we can have 2 or 3 people before we do the closing ritual. Who would like to go first?
Maybe I could.
Great. Katie, you're so welcome.
So I suppose for me, well, it was a luxury to have 10 minutes. In fact, that felt quite long. But I suppose I'm aware that I'm processing my journey from retirement to whatever I'm doing post-retirement. And although
Yes.
I'm sort of busy and I've got lots of things I'm doing, I'm adjusting the pace of what I do. I think that's a
Yes.
big feature, the pace and the
Yes.
intensity. I used to be very intense and passionate about too many things. And when you were saying what you're passionate about, I thought I don't actually want to be passionate about anything ever again. I think I just need to limit my energy and have a realistic approach to what I do from now on.
Well, I might even go one step further and actually say just enjoy being.
Yes.
But passion arises naturally, but maybe you've been too driven or something like that. So I would just
Yeah.
enjoy being until something that you feel passionate arises. And maybe you need, maybe you need to set boundaries with yourself around. Some people when they get obsessed when they entrepreneurs or people running businesses can get just overly spend too much time on their passion. But um, but I would just, it sounds like, follow the seasons. So I do personally believe that people who retire have got a big gift to give to the world. And I'd call it refreshment rather than retirement. But at the same
Refreshment.
time,
Yes.
maybe you need to go through take a year off and just have fun and smell the roses and walk in the woods and do all of that and then see what arises for you. So it's like paying attention to the natural tides of in your life. That would be my recommendation. Um,
Thank
yeah,
you. Thank you.
sure. Thank you. Who had their hand up next? Who was I can't remember now. Catherine Love has got her hand up. Hi, Catherine Love.
Right. Hopefully you've got.
What?
Hopefully you can hear me.
We can hear you. Yeah, absolutely.
I've kind of got the opposite problem that I can't wait to retire because I'm really not in a good place in the work environment at the moment. But I was in a group with two people that seem to have their lives very sorted and have real purpose in their lives, and that was interesting to hear for me because I'm in the complete opposite place at the moment, and they were quite encouraging.
Great. How close are you to retirement?
A long way. At the moment, I'm closer to paying off the mortgage, which is 6 years,
Right. Oh
and
God.
it's
Yeah.
I'm only 54, and God knows how long I'll have to work until I can retire. But once the mortgage is paid off, I'm hoping I'll have more options.
See, I mean, it's sort of, and I don't know how much, how much you've got golden handcuffs, and even if they're not very golden, even if
I
they're brass,
haven't.
they may be paying off they may be
I
paying off
have
the.
no. I have no. I have
So,
no rich relatives.
yeah. So no, but golden hand, some people get paid so much money that they have to pay,
No,
they have to continue in the job to pay the mortgage, and
no,
it's very
no.
hard.
I can barely keep my ends together, but I
But
made that I made that choice because I wanted to get some work-life balance. It hasn't kind of panned out like that, but
so so my
I'm kind of
view is
I'm trying to find more of a vision for the future, really,
great.
and to
So
find a way of incorporating my passions.
great. Well, that's what the topic of next week is about. So the first thing is to really know what you're truly passionate about, to know what your life calling is, what you're really passionate about, what really makes your heart sing. And then there's a question of, could I get more of this in the existing role or not? Is there a way that some people are really good at job shaping, and it's easiest to do either as a consultant, freelance, or in a big organization. In a forward-thinking big organization, it is possible sometimes with the help of HR to carve a role that fits your passion perfectly, but not always. So the ideal is within one's existing career to find a niche that really serves your passion. But some people for all sorts of reasons are in something that doesn't really serve their passion, doesn't serve their life calling, and then they have to think about how do I make a transition to a place where what I'm doing does serve my life calling more? And that's why when sometimes if people have got mortgages or kids in university or expensive, outgoings, that they just have to hang on. It can be quite, we need to pay the bills as well as start a new career. And that's why I asked you about whether you were close to retirement, because, for those people who are close to retirement, they can just say a couple of years more, and then I'm completely free to do whatever I want. I can follow my
unfortunately not.
know
I do
you've said
envy
that.
people that are in that stage.
So anyway, maybe next week's session will help you. But the thing to do is to start thinking about how could I have more passion in my.
I do tend to do it in my out of work life. That's where I share my, enjoy my passions.
That's also an option as well. So next question. I'll take one more question or comment. Or not. Maybe I won't. We'll see. Okay, we'll take a little bit longer on what I like to do as the closing ritual, which is so just check in with yourself. How are you feeling right now? And just notice what you're feeling, what the feeling is. And when you're ready, just unmute yourself and just share. Everybody, and if someone talks over you, just share the feeling that you have right now. And if someone talks over you, just repeat yourself.
Content.
Curious.
Hungry.
Prema, go again. Go again, Prema.
Grateful. Grateful to be part of you.
Interested.
Uplifted.
Thoughtful.
Rethink
Emotional.
what passion is.
Quiet.
Lighter.
Blessed.
Reassured. Reassured.
Emotional.
Who said emotional?
Me. Charlotte.
Oh, hi, Charlotte.
Really alive.
Really alive.
Grateful and happy.
Joyful.
Say that again, Akim.
Joyful.
Joyful.
Spring. Eager.
Anyone not spoken?
Enlivened.
Enlightened.
Wonderful.
Thoughtful.
So just, we've got 2 minutes, so just feel yourself, feel your presence. And hopefully some hope or some curiosity about hope. And then feel everybody else as well. Sort of like, here we are. It's like I'm here, I'm curious, I'm interested, I'm hopeful, I'm passionate, I'm heartfelt. And here are all these other people who are the same. Wow. It's funny, isn't it? Even if you hear just a few words or sentences from another person, you sort of get a feeling for them. Totally lovely to have you here today. Lots of love to you all. See you next week. Take care.